Hey, what's going on? It is the ManFUzed Podcast. Kay Lee here, audio producer, voice artist, your host, and my real estate broker co-host, Ben H. in the house. Hey, if you've gotten to a point in your life where you're looking at your life and going, I think I should be further along, and maybe you're frustrated by the barriers that are in your way. So hopefully you'll be able to take some information from this conversation and apply it in your own life, or seek out the mentors you need to help you take your business and personal life to the next level. Transformation coaches Keri and Jake Kauffman are going to expand on how we should all handle the resistance in our life. It's never comfortable. And me personally, when I'm dealing with resistance in my life, my go-to is to try to overcome it. I think Keri and Jake have a more healthy approach to dealing and tackling resistance as it comes our way. They're going to give us a little insight about relationships. I'm sure when you look at relationships, those in your life and those around us, you can see that relationships weren't designed to work. How do we preserve them? How do we maintain them? Keri and Jake are going to offer their perspective on what they do and how they look at maintaining them. We got a couple guests in studio, Keri, Jake Kauffman. You guys are both transformation coaches.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I got questions, okay? I really do have questions because...
I was about to say, the way that you said you guys are transformation coaches.
Yeah, well, it's
with the
more...
upswing and the question mark.
Yeah, I know. Hey, that's right.
Insinuating doubt?
No, no, I don't doubt that at all. I was curious as to when you guys met, because I figured it would probably one of two ways. You either like sparks flew, like you're a transformation coach, I'm a transformation coach, or it's like I'm going to keep my fucking eye on you. I don't trust you. You're my competition. You know, and that's kind of, I was like, or it could have been a happy medium. It could have been somewhere in the middle. I just thought that was pretty interesting. Well, how did you guys meet? Or were you both coaches at that time?
No, and we met on the gram. We met on Instagram.
The Grizzy Gram.
Who slid into whose DMs?
She slid into mine.
Boom.
Girl that knows what she wants.
Our chick.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. All right. So did you see he was a transformation coach?
I did, and then I decided to hire him.
For you?
Yes.
Scandalous.
She was trying to get secrets, the
But I will
secrets of the
say,
business, right?
I was actually working with Ben in real estate at the time. I was trying to get the fuck out of that job because I knew it was not my calling.
Right.
And so I hired Jake to help me with my vision and the business coaching part. So I'm like, how do I do this? How do I actually create a sustainable living off of coaching? I had tried it before, and so I decided to hire him. I will tell you, even though I slid into his DMs, it was nothing but professional, both of us, because I was not open at the time to a relationship. I was going through healing from a divorce, and so when I hired him, it was 100% professional, and he is a great coach, so he helped me a lot.
That's awesome. So now you use some of his trade secrets in applying towards your own clients. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
I remember that.
I remember the keys. She knows where all the keys are.
That's really true.
I remember that time too, and you know, being friends with Keri at that time, we would not talk all the time, but we would talk sometimes, and she would tell me kind of like on the DL, like, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I want to do, here's my ideas, like how, you know, I'm trying to figure this out, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, Ben. I'm like, hell yeah, you know, I'll hire you. You know what I mean? I used to say that all the time. I'd be like, I'm hired, you know what I mean? Like done. And then when you did it, this powerful move, you were just like, all right, it's time.
I do love that. Like when someone tells you they're going to do something, you know, and not something stupid, but like they're going to like move in a completely different direction with their life. You know, they're going to basically burn their boat and learn to swim in a sense, you know?
Totally.
And I'm not sure if it was exactly
Swim
like
or
that.
fight.
It was that.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, but that's when...
Sharks or swords.
And for me personally, I remember that happening a couple pivotal points in my life where I set out to do something and everyone around me is like, you're fucking stupid. You ain't going to get that done. And then, you know.
That's just because they don't believe in themselves.
Right. But it's powerful when somebody tells you that. And then,
Jake?
you know, in a short time, they achieve it. You're like, that person's moving.
Yeah, for sure.
And so...
And I want to add this too. So to see what you've done, you know, watching from a distance on Instagram and all the marketing that you do, the women's lives that you're affecting and the retreats and just all of this beautiful somatic work that you're doing, right? Because you're focused on the somatic, which is the body, correct?
Yeah.
Not the brain, but the
Right,
body.
correct.
And it's just been incredible. I mean, it's just been unbelievable to see. And I guess it's been 5 years.
4 years.
4 years?
2019.
Okay. Yeah.
I was in the courtyard of where we used to work on
Yeah.
the phone with him, and I was like,
Yeah.
I just quit. I just walked out.
And so 4
You
years.
did what?
And she's crushing it.
That's awesome.
Elevate
Well,
with Keri.
Well, yeah. So let me
Destroying
read
it.
off some of her stats, and you should be able to be proud because she's a kind of a product of. Hey, this is one of my projects. I have
She's a
helped her
walking
grow.
testimonial.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is true.
So Keri Ford is the CEO
Until
and
they fell in
founder.
love.
I'm going to repeat that, Ben. You're interrupting her intro of all of her stats, which is going to make us feel stupid because she's got so many stats. Keri Ford is CEO and founder of Elevate with Keri, an elite transformational coaching movement, luxury brand dedicated to serving and elevating women's emotional intelligence and whole body high performance. When I said that to Cassie, who just left, that you were going to be in here, I don't know that she had heard of you yet. And if she had, she's probably just not putting it together. But when I told her you were elevating women's emotional intelligence, Cassie's all for that. And she's like, oh, hell, I want to listen to that. So,
Hell yeah, Cassie. If you're listening, let's get in touch.
I was on your website, and there's so much to your website. I was like, holy shit, there's so much content on here. Your website is amazing.
It's
and
massive.
I didn't sign up for anything. I didn't know if it necessarily applied. I was a little
forward it
nervous.
to your wife.
Jake would be your coach because he works with men.
Yeah.
Right. You guys both had awesome sites, but Keri, yours was very complex. Like you had just so much stuff from meditating. It's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
You should be proud for sure.
Thank you.
Now, Jake, you mentor coaches more than people, or is it a combination of both? Because when I was on your website, I saw there was a lot of stuff geared towards coaching, coaches.
Admittedly, my website does need updating.
He was busy writing a book.
I might know a guy.
Right.
I'm just playing.
So, as we all do.
Yeah, right.
But the work that I've been doing lately over the past few years has transitioned away from working with coaches specifically. That's kind of how I broke into the online space to begin with, was supporting other online coaches and consultants in growing and scaling their businesses through organic online marketing and sales strategy. In addition to incorporating personal development, because business strategy without personal development will always be incomplete and insufficient, because
absolutely,
as I like to say to my clients, people don't have business problems, they just have personal problems that show up in their business. But the work that I've been doing lately with men has very much been focused on the interpersonal work that is inherently necessary for us to succeed in every area of life and thrive in every area of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my website is probably not the most accurate representation of what I do.
That's all Ben sent me. That's all I had.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
That's what, hooked me in, though, because that's where I...
not to cut you off, but there was something on your website when in terms of this book that I was captivated by. It was not only a brilliant piece of marketing, but it was real, it was vulnerable, and I don't know, it just said volumes about you, your own personal development, and your ability to really be that vulnerable. And so your book, it's a story of how you were sexually abused, and then the person who did this abuse to you, you were basically reading a message from that person to you.
So I don't ever actually talk about that in the book,
okay,
I believe.
But this was the video that I was just captivated by.
Correct.
You didn't even need to talk about it in the book. I'm by the book.
Sure.
Anyway, just because it was so real.
I appreciate
and it was
that.
sad, and it was, it pulled strings, and I just thought,
thank you for...
hats off to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that feedback. So the book kind of starts off with, in roughly, I would have been 27, 28 at the time. So this would have been 2012, 2013. I acknowledged an experience that I went through growing up as sexual abuse in work with a therapist.
Ooh.
Right. And so this kind of sent me down this path of personal development, because the moment I acknowledged it, then I was forced to confront it. And so several years later, so this would have been early 2019 at this point. So I've gone through years of counseling, therapy, personal development work to really heal from that experience and undo how that experience showed up in my behavior.
Right, of course. Because it's going to shape you.
Correct. And the results that I created in my life as a result, in career, in relationship, et cetera, et cetera. And when I shared my story on social media, my nervous system just collapsed. and I suffered from what is clinically referred to as an acute nervous system breakdown.
Okay.
A panic attack on steroids is probably the best way to think about it. The amount of connection that posting my story on social media created, because as you can probably imagine, I started getting tons of comments, messages, text messages, DM messages from people.
Some you knew, some you didn't.
Strangers, coworkers, clients, family, friends, you name it. Some people who knew about what had happened and were acknowledging me for it. Some people who I didn't even know who were sharing that they had been through something similar.
Right. And that's where you really start affecting other people.
Totally. Again, this was not my intention to get attention from other people, but it was to simply inspire them to step into their own healing journey, because throughout my time as a coach, because I had started my coaching business a year or two prior to this. Mm-hmm. So in my work with my clients, I realized, wow, so many people have been through what I've been through. I'm not unique in this regard whatsoever. It's just that so few people have actually shared it with someone else.
Well, right.
And they haven't done anything about it.
Yeah. And I think it would be just like, this whole Me Too movement that was sparked a few years ago. I mean, how many women have, been victim to, being preyed upon by someone in a higher position than them. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, some people stepped out and they're like, well, fuck it. Me too.
Right. It's very similar.
Like, because I get it. You don't want to step forward. You don't want that attention.
Right.
Typically, so let me ask you another question. How did you get over? Did you go to another therapist?
I did.
So how hard was it to be able to trust? You pay, I don't know if it was your family that sent you to this therapist or if you were flipping the bill, but you paid for a therapist to help you, and you don't expect to get scarred and experience trauma by them.
Totally.
They don't help you get through the trauma.
Yeah, right. Because as a 12 or 13-year-old, as a young adolescent, I didn't know what to do with that experience.
Of course not.
And so I did what pretty much anyone would do.
Stuff it down.
Mm-hmm.
Suppress.
It didn't happen.
Yep. Yeah. Suppress and repress it. Mm-hmm. But that, of course, didn't make that experience go away, nor did it undo the damage that it created. Right. And so it wasn't until 15 years later when I finally acknowledged it for what it was, I was forced to confront the emotions that I had been unconsciously working so hard to avoid all those years.
Right.
So that in and of itself, while it was relieving to acknowledge it for what it was also very terrible at the same time, because all of these emotions that I had been working so hard to avoid
came back.
And all of a sudden I'm tapping into a well of pain that I didn't even know was there.
Even worse than you probably could have imagined.
100%, because there was an array of different emotions, because whenever we experience trauma is very multifaceted. There's what was leading up to the trauma itself. Mm-hmm. There was the trauma itself. There was what was going on around you when that incident happened. And then there's, of course, what happened after the fact.
Post.
And so there's all these different facets and layers to trauma, the people involved, how it was handled after the fact, if it was handled at all, that go into having us form these different personality traits that are quite literally in response to pain.
Right.
And moving forward into the future in response to preventing pain.
Right.
And that's where I found myself realizing that, as a 27, 28-year-old, who I had become was in so many ways in response to pain or to prevent this pain from happening again.
Were you self-aware of kind of how you had become, or was people around you that loved you, friends, were they telling you, this is kind of how you are and it's probably not as good as you can be, or not as, so were you getting that from outside feedback, or did you know inherently, I'm not right, I'm not acting right, I'm not handling things in my life the way that I think? I'm not going to say you weren't healthy, but your vision of yourself as a healthy person.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both, to be honest with you.
I don't know if that made sense.
No, absolutely.
Totally made sense.
It was a little bit of both, but I would say it was more so me coming to terms with having created the life that I said I always wanted.
Right.
And on some deep inherent level, feeling very empty and unfulfilled, and having to be with the reality of that and ask myself, okay, why do I feel this way? Because I had become a master at hiding, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah.
I experienced this very traumatic, painful incident. And so I start unconsciously performing and putting on all of these different masks.
Of course, I was just about to say masks. You're wearing a mask.
And personality literally derives from the word persona, which quite literally means mask. So I start to become the people pleaser. I start to become performer. So I'm overcompensating, 3-sport athlete, excelling in academics, eventually thriving in my career and in finances, climbing the corporate ladder.
And from the outside, people are probably like, man, look at this motherfucker. Look at him go. And at the same time, like, he's got the life. But if they really found, and this is where, fake booking. I mean, it's like you can never judge anybody by what they're doing or the way they look, because the people that seem to have it all together sometimes are the most miserable. And you guys probably deal with that.
We see it all the time.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I have questions about that too.
It's way more common than you think. But yeah, all of that was an adaptation or an overcompensation to avoid dealing with pain. All of these personality traits or characteristics that led me to be successful were just compensating strategies that allowed me to act as if, from the outside looking in, I've got it all together, as you mentioned.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I was like, okay, I did all of these things, I accomplished all these things. Why do I feel empty and unhappy and unfulfilled? What is this internal tension that I'm experiencing as a result of what I've been through in my life? Because again, I had accomplished everything that I had pretty much set out to accomplish in terms of my career, and still found myself wanting and still found myself feeling empty. And so I was forced to take a peek underneath the hood, if you will, and do some reflection.
I hate that.
Right.
Peeking under the
true.
hood. Never know what you're going to find under there.
When I met Jake, I guess like 3 weeks ago or something, maybe a month ago.
You've only met Jake as of 3 weeks ago.
Right. And I haven't seen Keri in years since she left, the
COVID
place where.
She's been being tutored by Jake.
Well, they came to a mutual
A long time ago.
a mutual friend of mine and Keri invited us to an event that he was having for his real estate company. And so we came, and Jake was with Keri, and I got to sit down and talk to Jake and meet him and obviously reconnect with Keri. And he gave me this book. And, me in my typical fashion, I was like, cool, man, I'll read it this weekend. You know what I mean?
I'll listen to your mixtape, I promise.
and then, I woke up the next day and I was like, dang, I told him I was going to read it this weekend. I want to do that,
Man,
and so I read the book in like 2 days. That's not because it's necessarily an easy read, but it's not incredibly long. It's 100
Doesn't have to be.
144 pages.
It's got the recipe for what you need to hear. It's all it takes.
But the point is that when I started reading it, not only did I connect with Jake's story, and it's a really riveting book, the way that it's written, the characters and everything. It's just very well done, Jake. But I empathized with him and his experience. And at the same time, it was causing me to reflect on my own life as a boy, as someone who had my own trauma that I had gone, not the same necessarily as Jake, but leading all the way up through my adult life. And I felt like I gleaned so much value from the book, because what Jake did here, you talk about honesty. This book is so honest.
I mean, that's what I
the
was talking
level
about.
Of honesty there's a level of honesty
website.
here that, you're almost scared to be dishonest with yourself.
Right.
Much less anyone else, much less write it in a book.
Everyone else.
So you're talking about breaking through massive walls to get this stuff on paper.
That's what heals people. That's what relates to people. No one wants to hear about your perfect, shiny.
But
and no one's life is perfect and all shiny, but no one wants to hear all that shit. People want to hear how you overcame or how you thrived.
Well, and then it's it never ends, right? I mean, it's ultimately never ending. Even when you get to a certain point, you're at a different point, but it's not like you're there. And so I can identify with you, and we've talked about this a lot on the show. I battle with a lot of different mental health issues and different things, and I'm one of those guys that from the outside looking in, it's unbelievable. I live a great life. I have a beautiful family. I mean, I've done it all by design, and I've accomplished a lot of great things. But this brought up a lot of things for me that I've been working through, and I think I'm a better person because I read this book.
Well,
and I'm a better version of myself.
I appreciate that.
And I hope that we can stay in contact and talk
I love
about
you.
No, I mean, dude, seriously.
Start of a bromance.
I would, yeah, exactly. It's going to be a bromance for sure. But
You want to hold him, Ben?
I want to hold your hand.
Do you
You
want
want
to
to hold Jake? Do you want Keri?
No,
you
but-
and Keri want to switch
Get
seats.
out of here, Keri.
But no, I want to express myself genuinely because, like,
You are.
I want to recommend that everybody listening reads this book.
That's awesome. I can't
Whether
wait
you're
to
a
read it.
male, a female, I don't think it matters.
And
Specifically, the guys out there, I think it would really, because you're going to relate with Jake and his struggles. But we all have trauma,
And the book-
we all have stuff.
Yep.
That we're struggling with, that we're afraid to mention. We've all got stuff buried down in there from our childhood and our past. It's affecting you today. You know what I mean? And it's affecting your happiness and your capabilities and everything.
So the book is called
read the book.
Let Love In. The Pain Stops When the Truth Starts.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep right there.
Brene Brown says about shame that it needs 3 things to survive: secrecy, silence, and judgment. So you set yourself
like
free
that.
the minute you share.
Secrecy, silence, and judgment.
It's like the thing you swear you're going to take to the grave, that's the thing you tell people. That's the thing you share. And then everyone steps into the circle and says, fuck, me too.
Yeah.
Well, and Ben, you pointed out something really important, which I don't think most people understand, which is when you touched on trauma, that we all have trauma, whether it's big T trauma like what I experienced with an abuse or an assault. But on some level, we all have emotional trauma. And the reason for that is because trauma is primarily about how we internalize what happened to us, not what actually happened. The beliefs and the stories that we made up about ourselves, other people, or the world, and how we fit into the world, how we relate to others in the world.
Right.
That creates these limitations, that creates this lack of self-esteem that then causes us to develop these compensating strategies that keeps us in a state of performance. And it disconnects us. It causes this fracture in our authentic self.
Right.
So Carl Jung would refer to this, the famous psychotherapist, as the false self.
Okay.
Others refer to it as the admired identity, right? That seeks to answer
Makes sense.
Yeah, that seeks to answer the question, who do I need to be? What do I need to do? And how do I need to be perceived in order to be loved, accepted, and successful?
Right.
That becomes like the entire ledger for most people.
Right.
Not who am I authentically and what feels natural to me.
Yeah.
And I think this is why most people die with so much regret. The number one regret of the dying is that I wish I had lived a life true to myself.
Wow.
Yeah, and that would be like, I mean, for people that, and I can't even imagine, like, you know, being in the closet as someone who relates as gay or homosexual and having to wear that mask and act like, that's just like one of those things where I'm like, how could you not live your authentic self? And whether it be parents or, you know, I mean, that to me just sounds so exhausting and so...
Well, and most people don't even realize that they're doing this. That's kind of the big thing. When you're performing, you don't really realize that you're performing because the number one goal of the ego is to maintain the status quo. Right? The false self. And how does it do that? It hides the truth from you.
Makes sense.
So it's going to convince you that what you're doing, how you're living, is who you are.
Real.
Right? My personality is who I am. No, it's not. Your personality is who you've become. And typically what Keri and I have found is your personality, it's absolutely this amalgamation of genuine traits, for sure, but it's also incorporated heavily by these adaptive traits or these compensating strategies that we've taken on in response to pain or in order to prevent ourselves from re-experiencing pain. And so our stance becomes against. We are trying to actively prevent something from happening again. So we've experienced a challenging cycle, and now the majority of our energy is focused on not repeating that challenging cycle.
Of course.
But most of this is unconscious, like I mentioned, just like it was for me, where I didn't realize that I was taking on all of these different masks in an attempt to appear successful and like I had it all together, so that you can't hurt me again, so that I can't be taken advantage of or abused again. But that's what was going on. And so most people don't even realize they're doing this. What they do realize, though, is, okay, I have this beautiful life. I've accomplished a lot. At least this is what Keri and I find with the majority of our clients. Why do I feel anxious? Why do I struggle to slow down? Why can't I be present? Why can't I increase the level of connection and intimacy in my relationship with my significant other?
It's a good question.
Right, these interpersonal, internal roadblocks that are the source of resistance for so many that prevent people from ascending consistently in the different areas of their life. Health, wealth, relationships. That's what we find over and over again. The only thing standing in between you and the life that you really want, everything that you really want, is resistance. Well, that resistance is rooted in something.
You guys met.
I hate resistance.
I
hate it.
Yeah, resistance.
I hate it.
It's the worst.
I do. It's always there.
Yeah, but you know,
when
you're
you're
training, resistance is key.
Well, it makes you stronger, right?
Absolutely.
Correct.
But at the same time, it's just like, hey, you get out of your fucking way. You know what I mean?
There is
kind
a
of a
difference,
thing.
though, between
it's like, hey, me, get out of the way, me.
Sure,
You know?
resistance and resilience, right? Not to be confused. Resilience is the ability to be with hard things.
Yeah.
And to trust yourself despite potential overwhelm. Like, I got me. I don't have to avoid it anymore. I can go into the cave of courage, I call it with clients.
The cave of courage.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's what I'm going to tell
Ooh, I
my
like
wife.
that.
Baby, I'm going into the cave of
courage.
Leave me alone. I need the man cave of courage.
I love it.
Carrie Ford
Yeah.
told me that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Must be true.
And the resistance, sometimes it's actually really healing to befriend it.
Yeah.
This is a place that I am trying to love myself because I'm scared and I don't feel safe on some level.
Right.
So instead of pushing it away or trying to get rid of it and purify and like, why the fuck is this here? Instead, I might invite that part and say, why? I'm going to get curious. Like, what's here for me and why don't I feel safe?
Right.
Right.
What if I just knew that this was something coming online to protect me, whether it's perceived or real as a threat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people are going to battle with their resistance.
Right.
So they resist their resistance.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Right.
what
Double
resist
negative. It's like fire and fire.
100%.
You know?
Exactly. It's fighting fire with fire.
Yeah.
What resists persists. And so I think early on in life, that's a normal response to resistance, is to try to overcome it, to try to conquer
Fight
it.
through it. Yeah.
Right. But again, we're just fighting fire with fire. Eventually, we get to this point within ourselves where we simply allow the resistance to shape us, right? The resistance that came up for me in writing this book, in telling everyone, friends, family, clients, strangers, about my most shameful secret. It's the war of art that Stephen Pressfield talks about, this thing that I can't not do. And so when we allow our resistance to mold us and shape us, as opposed to trying to conquer and overcome it, we create a different relationship with it. Then all of a sudden we're making peace with our struggles, we're making peace with our resistance, or whatever challenges we're confronting as we grow, because that's a natural part of it.
Yeah.
Right. You kind of alluded to that or implied that when you're like, hey, in order to strengthen a muscle, we gotta stretch it. We gotta tear it first.
Right. Absolutely.
To make it stronger. So the process of growth is inherently uncomfortable and a little bit painful. We just have to distinguish between straining something and stretching something. There's a fundamental difference there. Right? Straining is when we invite in injury.
We don't want to rip it.
Correct. We don't want to rip it. And so as people are stepping into their healing, Keri and I are constantly inviting people into distinguishing between what is too much, too soon, too fast.
Right.
So that they can progressively, steadily step into greater levels of resistance, which is to step into greater levels of growth.
Right. Just continue stretching.
Bring
until you get to the point. What did you say?
Bring it.
Bring it. I'm a
love it, man. You
contortionist.
guys
I want to
are
stretch. That's awesome. So when you guys met, you hadn't, I don't know how long this book's been
He
out.
was writing the book.
I
He
had
was spending
correct.
weekends in the library.
So, and you hadn't
crazy.
released the video yet.
No, I started writing the book in early 2019, so a little over 4 years ago.
And you released the video while you were writing the book? It was like kind of like,
Yeah, that would have been probably exactly 4 years ago now. April or May of 2019 was when and by release, that's when I recorded it. I didn't actually publish that video on social media until very recently.
2 weeks
It's
ago.
been up on my website.
were you like this? No, not today.
It's like
I don't know. I don't know that I ever. I don't know that I ever. Even,
go.
Yeah, I don't even know that I ever got to that point.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. I just had a thought. So the dichotomy between releasing the statement on social media and then releasing the book 10 years later?
So posting on social media and releasing the book was almost 4 years to the date, like 4 years.
Wow.
4 years and 3 months.
That's amazing.
But you recorded.
That's amazing.
You recorded it while you guys had already started hanging out at this point,
No.
or were you guys just
Coaching.
working together?
No, we hadn't even.
Almost.
We hadn't
were about
even.
to step into coaching.
I don't think we'd even met yet.
It was like May.
Yeah, so I posted my story in January of 2019. I want to say I recorded the video a couple months after that, so probably in March or April of 2019, and then Keri and I met like a month or two after that.
So, and I don't mean to keep getting like, I'm just like, I think it's fascinating. So when did you guys, after the business relationship, when did you guys be like, all right, you know what? I kind of dig you. You dig
I'm coming
me?
over.
Yeah, I'm coming over. You want to cuddle? You want to cuddle? Let's just say
Spoon?
screw it. You want to cuddle? Spoon?
Were you guys just sitting next to each other?
We were
and you
actually
had to
living
hold
across
each
the
other?
country.
Yeah, like a hand.
Here's the thing.
No,
we
they like
couldn't
drop
do
books.
It. We couldn't. It was COVID, and he lived in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I lived in LA at the
So
time.
you were doing virtual
Zoom.
like coaching.
Correct.
And so
Yep,
I
over
had a
Zoom.
couple questions when we had both brought into the light. I'm noticing I'm just wanting to hire you now to be in my life. And I'm like, you're expensive. I love you, but like.
I want to be on you. I want to be on you.
Make out.
How do I say this?
If we make out, can I get a
How
discount?
do I say this? Can we make out?
Yeah. Will you hold me? No. So, but I guess like, because when you're maintaining that, it's business.
We
You know,
did.
you
It was
guys
very
were virtual.
professional. Yeah.
When did you decide like to divulge divulge, like, because these are secrets, you know, obviously, even whether like your client, you're not going to necessarily share that. You haven't shared it with the world, so you're not going to share that with her at this point. But as you two start to develop, hey, maybe there's something here, were you pretty forthright? I mean, like, in saying, listen, this is what you got to know about me. You know, this is what, you know.
I did know about this because I had seen that video on his website before I hired him.
Oh, is that what hooked you? Like, this guy is the real freaking deal.
His ability to go there within himself
is huge.
Is encouraging where I continue to go within myself, right? Because it gives someone else courage to do the same.
Okay, so
I knew that part. But we did have kind of a come to Jesus moment where he was like, listen, I know all your shit because I've been coaching you. So here's all mine.
Sit down for 25 hours straight because I'm about to vomit it all on you.
We did. We had like a couple hour FaceTime
awesome.
around us.
Do you still like me?
I wrote a proposal.
Okay. Totally. Because it was obviously, it was very much a one-sided relationship at that point, a coach-client relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I've
Coach
always been,
me, baby.
Right.
We need to level the playing field.
Yeah, 100% we did.
Yeah.
100%.
It's very one-sided right now.
You're 100% right.
That's what he said, yeah.
I literally used those exact words because while I'm very open on social media about my interpersonal struggles, I mean, hell, I wrote an entire book about it, but I was like, you've seen it and you've read it as I have written about
like
it.
Retail.
Curated
Right. It's like retail side.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let me give you the wholesale.
Right, exactly.
You need to come to the warehouse.
Okay.
So many innuendos.
Come to the trauma warehouse.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, you know, I haven't actually let you into how that impacts me.
Right.
In real everyday life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what that looks like in terms of my relationships and, you know, how it impacts me day to day.
Right.
You've read a post about what's happened to me. There's a very big difference between those two things. And so you are right. We did have like this gloves off conversation, if you will, where I was like, I've been coaching you for over 6 months now. I know all of your baggage. You know about mine, but you haven't had to deal with
you
it.
know how, for the most part, she's going to react and respond to certain things because she's seeking, you know, advice and guidance from you where she doesn't really know how you would react in a situation or respond in a situation where, you know, it might be very impulsive and that just might be something that you do because of what's shaped you or whatever.
Yeah, because a lot of what I've written about has always been in retrospect.
Right.
So it's, in many ways, it's been from a place of perspective. Now, I will say, when I wrote the book, I was very much processing in real time, writing in real time. And I think, I mean, Ben, you can probably attest to this. You kind of get that sense as you're reading the book.
I would say so. Absolutely.
Which a lot
very
of people,
much a first person account.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people told me not to do that, to be honest with you.
No, I think it's good.
They were like, you should write from the place of perspective rather than from pain, from the source of the wound. And to me, that didn't feel fully authentic.
Yeah.
Because I was like, but this is coming up for me now. This is true. This is real. This is relevant for me right now in this moment. And I want to capture that energy because I do feel that oftentimes, as coaches, as authorities in like the online space or whatever, there is this disconnect between us and our clients because they oftentimes see us as being so far ahead of them.
Right.
Not human.
Put you on a pedestal.
Yeah,
Correct.
Totally.
And this is exacerbated when we speak from the place of perspective constantly, as opposed to, this is what I'm struggling with right now.
Yeah.
That creates an incredible amount of relatability.
Absolutely.
And bridges the gap in a way that creates deeper connection and safety for people to interact with us because they're like, oh, they're human.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I
and the book is almost like a blueprint of dialogue that then it's hard for me to verbalize this, but it basically reflects within you. Now, as I'm reading this, I'm having these same conversations with myself about different things, and so people may not even know how to do that. For example,
right?
But your first person account of it and all the experience that you have dealing with other people, how that all adds up and shows up in black and white. If you read the book, you're kind of walking down a path with a flashlight in your own mind.
Yep.
At the same time. So there's a duality that's occurring.
It's a good way to put it.
What a beautiful picture you just painted, Benjamin.
Yeah. Versus no light.
Yeah. Versus you're walking in the dark.
Yeah, well, and most people are You know, I
absolutely.
think
There's scary sounds.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know?
I think it was Thoreau who once said that most men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Yeah.
And I think it is because we are trying to find our own way or find our way in the dark. We're performing, which is just to say that we're pretending that everything is fine. We're acting as if we have it all together. We're successful.
Yeah.
I'm fine. When in reality, we're not.
Yeah.
I hate that word. Hey, babe, how are you? I'm fine. Like, fine. Like that triggers me. Just because
Pink Floyd said, hanging on in quiet desperation is the English way.
Totally. It absolutely is.
English is in like the United States, or English is in like in Britain.
I think like the
both.
British monarchy and the society that they created when they conquered the world in the 1700s, and we still live under now. Basically,
Well,
the
I'm
English
sure that
way is how we live.
That bleeds into where we live here.
Yeah, pretty much the way we are.
Yeah,
Well, when you think about that, like objectively, that was very much this overcompensating strategy in terms of like a collective society.
Right.
That is like, we're going to conquer the world.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to establish this empire. And in many ways, we've broken out of that.
Yes.
And we're working our way through, this tribalism, like us against them mentality, although there are still remnants of that.
Yes.
They're still very powerful.
Totally.
And still a lot and more control than we probably
but
know.
that's just a beautiful example of.
But people don't want a king anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? They used to want a king.
Right, but you know what? We've traded a king in terms of like this monarch.
Yeah.
For the sake of being our own king.
That's right.
In our own lives.
Yeah.
Which only
America.
Yeah, America. Right.
America gave me that.
which really just perpetuates suffering, because the inherent idea behind that paradigm is this, that the highest example of myself, the highest version of myself, is somewhere out there.
Yeah.
At the next level, at the next achievement.
Right.
Which constantly has us chasing rainbows.
Yeah.
And this is why in the work that Keri and I do with our clients, we're constantly telling our clients transformation, true transformation, that fundamentally leads to happiness and this peace that
fulfillment and
this peace that is beyond understanding, that we're all after at the end of the day.
Right.
It's not about becoming, it's about unbecoming. And we're stuck in this cycle of constantly chasing after more or going after the next level, which paradoxically is never enough, because more only makes you want more, and the next level only makes you want the next level. It's a trap.
Yes.
Right.
And that's why true transformation is always about unbecoming. It's a return home back to who we truly authentically are.
Right.
And doing what comes most naturally to us.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's beautiful.
Basically remembering who the fuck you've always been.
Right. And you're not just chasing more shit, more stuff, more money, and it's just...
You've got nothing to prove and nothing to protect.
Right. Because because you can't protect shit anyway. I mean, everything
But you can certainly try.
You can try. You can set up all the false senses of security around you that make you feel like you are in control and you can hold on to whatever. But at the end of the day, it could all be gone in a second. And
that's when you meet who you have become.
Correct. And I welcome that, man.
Hopefully before that time, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating. That's really, really cool. So Bert, actually, right now we are sitting in the Bert Show studios. And I think, you talking about being vulnerable and the book being written in first person, the Bert Show, while we are a radio morning show and, theater of the mind, but one of the reasons why this show has been so successful for so long is because Bert has kind of fostered this atmosphere of sharing, the good, bad, and the ugly of their personal lives.
Sure.
Because that's what people relate to. That's what entertains. That's what helps people get through things. That's sometimes what people need to hear.
Yep.
At that very moment. It's somebody, whether it be just changing their day or it may be changing the course of their life. And while some of it is embellished at times, because sometimes you could really spin a better story by just tweaking just a little thing. And, and certain things you want to keep to yourself. I can't talk about everything on the air, on the Bert Show or on my podcast, because I'd be divorced.
That's fair.
Yeah, my wife would probably divorce me if I
Yeah.
spoke freely. I mean, and I'd probably burn more bridges than I've burned, because I'm constantly getting yelled at for sharing shit I probably shouldn't share.
So there's just some
Just don't burn the drawbridge.
No, I need to cross it. I need to get to the other side. But I think
Don't get stuck on the other side of the moat, Chris.
But it's just,
Kaylee.
I like to swim in a moat. That'd be awesome.
Well, speaking of women,
I love women. No,
we've got Keri here.
no, I know.
We need to hear about some women stuff.
Yeah, and I was going to get to that. I was letting the teacher teach.
Let
He
the
is
teacher
the
teach.
teacher.
No, man, it's brilliant. I mean, everything you
Let
say.
the chef cook.
I totally agree with, and it's very insightful. And I could see why you are a coach, and I could see why she hired you. I want to hire you.
I do too.
What's your retainer?
He had people come to him and be like,
Do you take
I
a check?
For a while, you had people asking, right? Like, can I get results like Keri?
Oh yeah.
Why don't you take care of me like you do her?
Different
Well,
path.
at the time, there was none of, it was very professional.
I want the Keri treatment.
Oh, hell no. They don't get the Keri treatment.
I was about to say,
No
I don't
fucking
know what to do
way.
with that.
He's like, I didn't hear
I don't
that.
see that package on your website.
It's a
I want to
it's-
order that one.
It's a custom package.
I was about to
That's
say,
right.
I don't know if I'd have a relationship if that package was
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah,
sure as
probably.
coaches, people probably hit on you a lot,
Well,
My
I
team
would
is in my DMs.
I
like,
would think that, you have clients, potential people hit you up. I'm sure you've got to weed through the riffraff.
Yep.
People just inquiring, not really serious. But when it's kind of like I vent people. And even if I list something on Facebook, like you can always tell by just the way people respond, like initially, like
Totally.
whether this conversation's even going to go on another step. And it's like you take it to another, okay, I'm talking to a real person. Then we get on the phone and, you're gauging. But do you guys ever turn people away because you're like, I'm
Yeah.
just not fucking with this person.
Yeah.
This person could be toxic. They're not going to really take what I'm trying to teach them seriously. And why spin my wheels and waste my
Totally.
time?
Yeah. Well, and we're very open with people because any coach that's worth their salt is going to lead you right into the heart of your problems, not around them. But that's egoically what most people want to do. Help me with my goals, help me get to the next level.
They don't want to face the shit.
Right, but they don't want to face the things that are preventing them from reaching their goals and preventing them from
course
reaching the next level. But that you can't have one
want a
without
shortcut.
You're right, totally. You can't have one without the other. And so the two absolutely go together. If you take your car into the shop, they're going to need to run a diagnostic first.
Yeah, of
and they're
course.
going to need to figure out what the problem is.
Right.
So that then, prescription and then diagnosis. So that they can get the car running optimally. The same is true for our health. And so most people come to us wanting a diagnosis, which is like, help me get to the next level, help me achieve more extraordinary results in, whatever area of my life. And it's like, okay, well, we need to talk about what's preventing you from achieving that on your own.
Right.
Because we're not talking about a healthcare issue, likely, because we're not clinicians, we're not healthcare professionals. But what we are great at is diagnosing the interpersonal barriers or resistance that we talked about earlier that prevent all of us from getting what we ultimately want out of life.
But people, they're, if you take someone on, they're going to have to be vulnerable. They're going to have
Correct.
to, you're not therapists,
Correct.
but you kind of are. In a sense, you're getting people to open up and you're giving your best advice on how to. Do you ever send people to therapy?
Yes.
Yeah, yep. Both of us have therapists that we co-manage clients' care with.
Okay.
So we refer out to a clinician, but most of this is solved for in our application process. Anyone that comes to work with us, whether it's to attend any of our retreats, whether it's to work one-on-one with us or in any of our group containers, everyone has to fill out an application. So we get a really good sense about where people are at before we ever get around to having a phone call
How
with them.
committed they are.
Right. And
Do you do background checks on these people?
Haven't done it.
Haven't done
This
it
guy
yet.
sounded really weird. He was breathing in the phone. Ben, he was.
What does that say
I
about
wasn't
you?
calling you out. I was
Those are
actually,
fighting words.
Ben was talking about in a previous episode. We were talking about what icks some of our icks.
Yep.
And Ben detailed this interview he had at a real estate office outside of Georgia, where the main guy was sitting there, and as he was talking to Ben, he just kept pelvic thrusting the air. And then when he would stop talking, he would stop pelvic thrusting. Yeah. But as soon as he started talking
like
again,
this. And so what I'm thinking is just like, and then he'd stop and be like, "What do you think?" And I'd be like, "I don't even know what you're talking. Like, I gotta go.
What is going on?
I think we should stop doing that.
Why is he doing that?
Yeah,
I gotta leave.
Maybe it's like a self-soothing thing,
It's like he didn't even realize he was doing it.
Like he thought there was a woman on top of him.
It sounds like a scene out of a Will Ferrell movie.
Yes.
It was weird. It was like that.
Anchorman.
The whole thing was a scene from a Will Ferrell movie.
That's awesome.
From the time they picked me up, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" You know what I'm saying? I mean, this guy rolls. I'm out there for a big job interview, by the way. Sure. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
These guys want me to lead like 3 offices in Charleston.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like Mount Pleasant, like big, like 1,000 agents.
Did you imagine reporting to that guy every day?
And they roll up. The dude picks me up in a freaking 30-year-old VW Jetta with like hubcaps busted off of it.
Crumbs
dirty
and
crumbs and shit
back.
all over the. And, I'm like thinking this is obviously like the administrator. No, this is going to be your boss. When he introduced himself, I was like, really? Like, I don't want to put my bag back here.
You're like waiting.
It's polluting the air.
You're waiting for him to be like, I'm just joking.
Yeah, the whole time.
Right, the whole time.
The whole time I'm waiting for them to be like, just kidding.
Yeah.
And then I was doing 75 hard at the time.
That's awesome.
And so I wasn't drinking.
Sure.
But they held this like big wine thing for me, like so everybody could get to know me.
Yep.
And then I was like, I'm not drinking. And they're like, well, that's just weird. I'm like, no, it's cool. Like,
weird.
I'm doing this thing. Andy Friselli, 75 hard, blah, blah, blah.
He said that's
like, I'm doing this
weird.
thing. And they were just like, oh, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, okay. It was just the most awkward
How dare you
thing
work on yourself?
That's
ever.
beautiful.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
beautiful.
It was the most awkward stuff.
It was an amazing story anyway.
Which Keri, I believe, is the one who introduced me to Andy Frisella.
Did I?
I believe so.
Maybe.
75
I think
hard.
that you came to me at Beecham and Company and you were like, do you know who Andy Frisella is?
I remember having that conversation with you and Dustin in the hallway.
Yeah,
about
you were
that,
like-
and you started listening to his podcast.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe we did have a conversation about that.
Yeah, you're the one that introduced me to Andy Frisella.
And then he introduced it to me,
which has been massive for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a definite. It's an awesome program.
I've actually never done it. I just know who he is.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you don't even have to do it.
Yeah.
You just
I've
pass it
since
along.
been to the
Check
guy's
it out.
house. I've been a part of his
What?
business group,
Of course
hanging
you
out with
have.
the
I
dude.
made love to
I know
him.
his dad. I know his brother. And freaking,
Oh, hilarious.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Nice.
I'm not
really?
going to say like he's my boy or anything like that
Yeah.
because he's a pretty.
I didn't make love
Whatever,
to him. I was
but,
just
um,
joking.
I've definitely gotten to know him and his material really well.
Yeah.
And so it's been a great journey.
Cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
tell us, Keri, like some of these like events, like these like group settings that
Yeah.
you do for women. I think our audience is kind of split. You would think it would be mostly men, but there's
We've got a lot of ladies
women
out there,
that
and we love
that
you
listen
all.
to the podcast, and we welcome that. And so like
and they're fervent defenders of us too.
That's awesome.
some of them,
Yeah, they are.
Some of them were
they write in and they're like, "Don't listen to all that. We love you. We listen to you at our work. And we like
we
everything
love
you're
your
talking about."
misogynistic. We love your misogynistic behavior. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah,
we're
that's
not
what it was.
misogynists.
That's
Like,
what we got a 1-star review where they
put it
call
on
us
our shirt.
misogynist.
We put it
and
on our
sexist.
shirt. Yeah.
and then we put the review on a shirt.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
was like
best.
the 1-star review.
You have to love people behind the keyboard. Like I remember
Yeah.
getting
What was it?
DMs from
Bummer.
people that are
Yeah,
like,
it's a bummer.
Bummer.
It was a bummer.
Super misogynistic.
oh,
Shaking
God.
my head.
This is misogynistic.
Like,
then
just
this
don't
KD is
listen to it.
disgusting. I'm just like, what?
Happens.
Which we are sometimes. But yeah, so tell us about
I'm not saying she was wrong.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I'm
I'm
not
just saying.
saying. I mean, hey, so but no, so the group events how does that look different than the one-on-one? So I mean, obviously there's multiple people there, but do you go out of state? Is
Yeah.
this like?
Sometimes.
I didn't do a ton of due diligence
Yeah.
and research into that. Your website was very vast. All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, so if you don't mind, like telling us some about what's your favorite part, I guess, about helping women be better and improving themselves.
It is so cool to see them go home a different human being. People have asked us, do you guys do drugs at your retreats? Because, like, I knew this woman before she went, and she came home and she's like, I see her more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know? And they'd say that to me, and then they're like, I don't know, but I've seen your work, they'll tell me. And like, I know that sounds crazy, but like, I knew this woman before your retreats. I knew this woman before working with you. And like, what the fuck? Seriously, do you do drugs at these retreats?
Totally
and I'm
different.
like,
That's amazing.
no, we don't. In fact, our retreats are dry. Nothing against people that want to do psilocybin, plant medicine, go for it. I'm not a facilitator of that. We actually have dry retreats until the last night because there's such emotional richness that happens there. And the last thing I want is social lubrication that creates falsified connection.
Oh,
and
social
also
lubrication. I like that.
Right. And so I want them to come away with authentically connecting to themselves and other women without that crutch that we are also used to with the 2-drink, baseline.
When you say they come back and like they're a different person. I mean, I know I've been to some retreats, or I don't even call it a retreat, conference or whatever. And I've been to Costa Rica, not in the woods with Ben eating psilocybin, but do they come back and is it a permanent thing? Sometimes people come back and they're fired up, they're charged, they've got this energy, and then life kind of that redundancy of, their everyday life kind of, I don't know if it numbs them,
Yeah, both.
Both.
Right?
So,
like, I don't want to take people to church and have them feel really inspired and say, well, that was great.
Of
Back
course.
to life as usual, right? So I think it's important to have the coaching and the integration on the back end.
Of course.
Because then you stay close to the work and you stay close to the shifts that you have made and are making actively. It's hard to reprogram and rewrite over scripts that have been running your body and life for a long time.
Decades.
Yeah, decades. And so it's important they stay close to the work, and it's important they get that coaching beyond, because there's a lot of processing and integration that comes up on the back end.
I was thinking about this also. I don't know where you are now. It seems like you guys are well established in what you're doing, and you guys have a good book of business. But in the beginning, managing people, your livelihood is based on you helping people achieve more. You help enough people get what they want, and achieve what they're trying to achieve, and ultimately help them be the best person they can be. Yeah. You guys financially, emotionally, spiritually are getting fulfilled in all those areas as well. And I know Ben has had to try to manage with real estate, trying to set up a team. They work for themselves. He's not trying to own them like an employee. He's trying to show them how to make more money and live off of this. But managing people is a bitch.
Inherently messy, yeah.
You get excited. Ben and I are both very optimistic. We get pumped up and fired up about an idea, and we just get into action. But as you get going with people especially, you get let down. Sometimes it's a financial thing. Has that been hard to get to where you were? Because at some point you were dependent on, business coming in and people seeking out your coaching, I would imagine, when you're starting off, right?
Yeah. For myself, I had been in the personal development space in Los Angeles for a number of years. So when I started coaching, I had a lot of people who were almost immediately interested in working with me. That was really incredible. And I consider myself incredibly blessed to have been in that position. But figuring out the online social media game, where I start to attract people who have never connected with me and who don't know me, who haven't had an in-person experience of me, that took me time to figure out for sure.
Totally.
That took a couple of years to really start to get comfortable with, how do I leverage Instagram? How do I leverage Facebook? How do I market myself in a way psychologically insofar that people come across my content and they are incentivized to want to reach out to me and talk to me about possibly coaching with me. That took me time to figure out. And I actually went to college for marketing. So entrepreneurship.
Did the hat help?
Absolutely. For sure it did. But
yeah.
The what?
The hat.
Oh, the hat?
You haven't seen the hat?
Oh,
This
the
one?
hat?
Yeah, that's the hat, dude.
No,
The hat. I thought you said
as
just
soon
that.
as you said that, that's the image
I'm
I
telling
got.
you, dude,
It's
the hat's
Oh my
powerful. I'm like,
God.
what is this hat?
Is
I don't
this
know if
a
I love
Gorin-
it.
is
Do
this
I
a
hate
Gorin
it?
Brothers
It
hat?
looks good on him. I don't know, but I mean, like,
Well, because Gorin Brothers makes a nice
in
set of
Nashville.
hats too, and they're not
in
cheap.
Nashville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nashville
Yeah,
bought it.
It's a killer hat, dude.
It is
He gets
a
a
bad-
lot.
it
People
just-
stop
It's
him.
very Cuba.
I don't know
to me.
what it
Like
is.
it's set, like I don't know if I'm getting, but it reminds me of like a Cuban guy.
Keri's
right?
daughter calls it a cowboy hat.
They met him and they were like, "Are you a cowboy?" And I was like, and his dad goes, "Take that as a sign.
Depends on what you mean."
Forget the hat.
Right, totally. Oh my word.
Why, yes, little lady, I am.
But as a broader lesson, going back to what we were talking about, relationships fundamentally do not work. They don't. Because
they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed
it's like
to.
Planned obsolescence.
When you say relationships?
Yeah.
Like between
Planned
man and woman?
obsolescence.
Anyone, because we are constantly needing to overcome ourselves in an effort to make it work. And so by virtue, they inherently don't work. Relationships aren't meant to work.
We're not meant to like anybody.
That's why
See you later, babe.
They're simply meant to be navigated.
Right.
Because it's in navigating the hardships, it's in navigating the deficiencies that come with any relationship that we become better people.
Absolutely.
That we become more resilient within ourselves, and the more secure we become in our relationships, successfully navigating or effectively navigating our way through conflict and tension.
So if I can ask you guys a question, because you guys seem both very well-rounded, and I believe that you are. What does a fight look like in y'all's house? Because I know something about you that you don't know.
What you're doing right now is you're pulling from your trauma and you're reflecting it on me.
Yeah.
And we talked about that.
We actually talk more like
actually,
that.
that's
pretty accurate.
That's 100%.
Do you want to come back to me when you're your real self?
If you think about it, I mean, how do we fight, dude? It's like swinging a machete in the dark, where at least they probably have the emotional intelligence to be like, all right, let's take.
She told me to go get my real self. I'm going to go I'm going to go get him out of the closet.
Hopefully it's helpful, but I agree with you. It's got to be like,
I would imagine, well, I mean, everybody gets on each other's nerves. I don't care who you are. Were your parents divorced? Or
My parents are still together.
Oh, they are?
Yep.
That's awesome. Ben's too.
Mine too.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
I'm the only. I'm divorced.
I'm the only bad apple in the room. But I didn't come from a broken home. My parents got divorced. There was never too much fighting. But I was kind of, at about 8 years old, if you guys aren't happy together, then be apart. Like, my dad didn't walk out. He moved in the same zip code. He, grabbed me on weekends. It was like Little House on the Prairie compared to some people's,
Sure.
I mean, horror stories. Yeah, absolutely. But, my wife, she comes from, I guess, she's got some daddy issues. I'd say that she still does, but which, I get to experience on the daily or weekly.
You get to love on.
Yeah, I get to love on. Our arguments and the way she responds and the way she reacts is not the way that I would respond or react. While y'all's fighting might be a little bit more...
Way more professional.
Way more professional.
We professional.
Yeah, I would say where mine would be more street.
Yeah.
It would be like...
In the real estate world, your fight's like a FISBO.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Whenever we're fighting, if you were an outside observer, a fly on the wall, right, you would think that we're simply having a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm listening to what Keri's saying and vice versa. She's taking in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we're approaching that with curiosity and openness.
Yeah.
While
nice.
while simultaneously distinguishing how much of this is mine, how much of what she is communicating to me am I actually responsible for, and how much of this is a projection.
Yeah.
How much of this is her, and again, this goes both ways. How much of this is her past,
right,
pain from the past, being recycled in the present moment and being projected onto me as a result. So there's like this kind of like wading through the sand, if you will.
Right.
And we will literally say out loud as we kind of take it in and process it for ourselves, like, this doesn't feel like mine. And like, I reject that.
I love that.
I'm going to use that. You know what?
Yep.
But it doesn't mean
mine.
I'm abandoning him. Yeah, it's not like I'm like, well, fuck off with that. That's yours. Have fun healing. I'm like, I'm there and I'm with him, but I don't have to take it on for him. I also don't need to be responsible for where he goes with that because I'm just going to hold the space.
Correct. We're not necessarily making the other person wrong about like, that's yours and don't put that on to me. It's more of an observation,
right?
And discerning.
Yeah.
Very, very careful discernment of, okay, what is mine to own here, and what is her stuff that's just being projected onto me.
Right.
In this moment, she's unaware of, and that she's not taking full responsibility for. And so it's kind of just like this wading through the waters of like, okay, I'm totally willing to acknowledge and accept what you're saying, and I'm sorry.
It's always the best way. Just say you're sorry. That's what
Or
just end it.
I should
sorry.
I should say, and simultaneously being willing to say, that doesn't feel like it's mine, like Keri mentioned. That doesn't feel like it's mine. I feel like that's yours. And I'm happy to continue to engage with you in this conversation and be with you in this.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take too much responsibility.
I'm not going to take ownership of
Correct.
this in the way that it's being presented to me.
Absolutely.
Right now.
I might also ask, is there a request for support here? Is there something I can do that you would like? Maybe it's just a hug.
Oh,
maybe you just want to, maybe I can just like shut up and sit next to you and you want to just talk. And I can do that.
I would really like to be held right now.
Yep. Well,
I'll say that. I will be like, can I just have a hug?
Right. Yeah. Well, because oftentimes it's just, it's the other person trying to
there you
communicate a need.
Your pen.
My pen.
Pen goes ahead.
Oh, my word.
Held. That's what I meant by held.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Actually,
I said held is what I said. Held. I want to
when
be
you
held.
are actually in those
Held
fights,
Slipped out. I don't know.
after you experience like one of those really vulnerable shares where you like make a request for support maybe you hadn't made before, that's a really great time to go make love because you connect in like a very real place.
See?
Yeah.
So there you go.
This is all good stuff. Like, I have a question for you, Keri, about women specifically.
Ooh, please.
And as a man, and a man who knows many men,
Many men.
I'm not. This is not in any way to remove any responsibility for whatever it is that we're doing, because I know I got problems too. I'm no angel to live with and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think anybody is.
and yet at the same time, as I know many men who have wives, I find in talking with them that we actually share a lot of the same issues,
Heartaches
with our wives,
and headaches.
and a lot of it, I feel, has to do with unresolved trauma from the female's life.
Sure.
And I think that there's something happening where women will dump this on their husbands in a way that is so just mean. They're just fucking mean. And it's like
give me an example.
it's like, why do you have to say those words? Like, why do you have to attack?
So,
why are you attacking me? How did you get to this level of pissed off based on what we're dealing with? We're dealing with something here, and like that, and I get it. Like, let's deal with this. But you're like, way the hell over here somewhere. I don't even know where you are, but you're certainly not here in the kitchen. You know,
I think our paths kind of run similar courses with those type of responses. And I think if I had to make a educated, logical guess, because I am very logical, and that's probably one of my downfalls, is I probably need to show a little bit more emotion at times.
Yes, you do.
I'm very logical.
Just a daredevil.
Right. But that would come from what they've experienced in the past. And if I had to, they take out...
If I may, it's actually a self-protective strategy. I'm happy to toss this back over to Keri, but I do agree with you that on some fundamental level, it is a result of unresolved or unreconciled, unhealed trauma from the past. But in many ways, it is a self-protective strategy.
That's their way of protecting themselves.
So if we're at a 10 in a reaction, and you're like, okay, I'm confused. Where is this coming from? There is something that happened before that they didn't speak up when they felt it start to come online. Maybe a request, a need, voicing something.
Right.
Or maybe it was a conversation with somebody else before you even were in the room. Or is it?
Maybe.
That's a very human experience.
It could be. But I think it's when we see, like, especially in a dynamic where it's like kind of this, like, resentment is built up, or they lose their shit over the dishes in the sink, and you're like, okay, whoa, I thought like we're just, I'm coming to help you. Like, what's this all about? Yeah. It's usually if there's an unspoken need that has kind of passed by that they didn't speak up for, and now it's just festering.
Yeah.
So learning how to identify needs earlier is
maybe
part of it as
they have
well.
asked and you've forgotten or not made time.
Or you had a conversation you don't remember.
Oh God.
The predominant way in which men protect themselves, at least the way that most men have been taught to protect themselves, is I'm going to overwhelm you physically.
Men.
Correct.
To women.
In general.
Yeah.
That is the way in which most men have been historically programmed to protect themselves.
Agree.
Is I am going to overwhelm you physically.
Got it.
For women, it's I'm going to overwhelm you emotionally.
Oh, and
Also a way of being heard, right? If they're getting louder and attacking, it's like fight response. That's a nervous system protective response coming online. That's just like getting louder and louder because they don't feel heard. Something happened or was not heard earlier, potentially too.
Sometimes I feel like they just want to cut you.
So what's the best way to deal with that? Like I'm in this present moment and you're at an absolute 10 and me, like, I don't want to go to the 10.
You're at a calm 4.
Sure.
But like that only lasts for so long. You know what I'm saying? Like you're like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do it.
You don't need to match their energy.
And then all of a sudden, there you are. You know, and you're just,
God.
You know, and it's just freaking
There comes
World
the
War
word
III,
that
you know what I'm
she
saying?
hates more than anything else on the planet.
Maybe I started it yesterday when I didn't hear what you said or whatever.
You kind of take the
and
bait,
then you didn't bring it
right?
up. And then now I took the bait. And now here we are.
Yeah.
And
don't take the bait. Lead with curiosity. Yep. Hey, I'm confused. I understand why you're upset right now, I think. And how are we at this level of upset right now? Right. How did we get here?
What's the real challenge here for you?
Yeah.
Is my favorite
Just
question.
get curious.
Ooh, what's the real
Because
challenge?
by virtue of...
What's this really about?
Right.
Take
by
a note, damn it.
By virtue...
Can I write in your book?
Absolutely.
well, we are recording it.
Right, there you go. But by virtue of how the question is phrased, you are implying that there is a deeper challenge that hasn't been communicated yet.
Which is probably true.
Right.
Oh,
or
it's
what Keri
most
is saying.
likely true.
Definitely true.
But by way of how the question is phrased, you force them to go there themselves. You don't tell them to go there. You invite them to go there by asking them a question.
That's open-ended.
Because if I say, if I accuse you that like you're bringing up historical shit right now, and I don't think this has anything to do with what you're actually mad about,
That's like more walls.
More walls. They're going to get even that much more self-defensive in an attempt to rebuff you and protect themselves.
Right.
But if you ask a question, that immediately disarms, and especially this question forces them to go deeper within themselves introspectively in a way that causes the underlying issue to reveal itself organically.
You never want to point the finger and be like, you. No one's very responsive when they're like, you did this and you did like, what?
Nobody's going to respond to that well.
No.
But when you can acknowledge what's actually happening in you,
and
instead it like really cuts off the projection. It doesn't go to that level, and continually over time it stops going to that level. Like it's very rare.
There's
I can count on 3 fingers probably the amount of times we've gotten into like.
There's this common saying in sales, Ben, that you've probably heard before, which is, if I say it to you, you're going to doubt it.
Yeah.
If you say it to me, you're going to treat it as fact.
Right.
Even if it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think the same thing is true when it comes to arguments.
Yeah.
If I say it to you, you're going to get even more defensive.
Yeah.
In all likelihood.
Right.
If you say it to me, you're going to be forced to go internally and introspectively in a way that's going to disarm.
Yeah, that's good.
I'll put that in my quiver.
In your quiver?
I'm shooting that arrow next.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. Your quill?
Yeah.
Put that in. Use your quill and write that down. No, I'm talking about the one that you dip the ink in.
Yeah, well, you think about building and cultivating emotional intelligence within the context of a relationship. Emotional intelligence is your ability to effectively separate thought from emotion. And so when you're in the midst of an argument, a conflict, that's where that is tested more than any other time, because you're forced to be a neutral observer to your thoughts.
Right.
Because we are not our thoughts.
Right.
We're the person listening to those thoughts.
Yes.
Our thoughts are the result of our parenting, our conditioning, our upbringing, all of those different things. When we can think something but separate the emotion that is typically attached to certain thoughts,
Right.
then we can respond as opposed to react in a conscious way that allows you to diffuse and disarm any type of tenuous situation or interaction or conversation.
I know how you feel. I felt the same way. But I found that if you read Let Love In,
it'll certainly help.
It will let love in. Literally. So
it's like the carrot, the egg, and the coffee bean.
Yes, I love that story. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck is that, Ben? And you're like, it's like some Bruce Lee shit.
Yeah.
You're like, the coffee bean absorbs the water.
No. Do you guys know the egg, the carrot, and the coffee bean?
I
No.
don't.
All right.
It's a fable.
Take boiling water
Yeah.
and you put an egg in it. The egg hardens.
Mm-hmm.
Take boiling water, you put a carrot in it. The carrot softens. You take boiling water and you put a coffee bean in it, and the water becomes coffee.
Yes.
So be the coffee bean. Affect your environment. Don't let it harden or soften you.
Love that.
Great. Yeah, it's kind of the difference between being a thermometer and a thermostat.
Oh.
Okay?
Oh, I like that too.
I like that one.
Thermometer reacts to the environment.
Yeah.
It reads the temperature of the room. The thermostat sets the temperature.
Boom.
I want to be the thermostat.
Yeah.
Let me set the temperature in here, baby.
I'm going to turn it down.
Yeah. I'm gonna make it hot in here. So, Keri, like, can you give an example? Do you have one client transformation that stands out as far as like a success story that was, I guess you'd say, epic in certain ways, that they came to you, they were broken, or not necessarily broken? I don't know if the broken people probably
Not
don't.
always. The women that come to me are already winning. They're already
That's
winning.
the ones you want.
They're winning. They also struggle within themselves. You know, what
course.
Jake was talking about before. Like, even though I have all this on paper, why do I still feel
Insecure
empty?
or
Yeah, like I'm not enough, or like I am perpetually chasing the next thing. And like, I want to slow the fuck down, but it actually gives me more anxiety. So how do I reprogram that? How do I actually do that and cultivate that in my life? I mean, they all have different results in terms of what an expanded, alive life feels and looks like to them. But one that stands out to me, she runs a $30 million healthcare company, a CEO, and she has, the way she's expanded into her next level identity as the CEO and taken over the parent company has allowed her to secure funding to the number of 9 million. So that's a pretty good stat.
so. And with someone like that who comes to you, was she a referral? Like a
She was
word of
actually a
mouth,
friend.
like referral? She was
And
a friend.
she was
okay.
like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a life coach. Maybe I can
ding,
talk to
ding.
you
Ding, ding.
about it.
That's a good friend,
And
too.
I was
Yeah.
like,
That's a good friend.
Yeah, it is.
I'm curious why, you know, what is having you ask about other life coaches? Because I feel like I can support you with this. She's like, well, my only concern is like, would it shift our friendship? And I was like,
That's a good.
it's a great question, right? And so I'm very aware. Like, we'll text when we're friends, and we'll be in Voxer, which is like a client support app, when we're client coach. A shift between different energies.
And so was her thing like a time management? It's like, I would imagine
Yeah.
getting to that next level. How are you going to take this on with still unplugging, having, if she has a family,
Yeah,
having,
she does.
that time. I mean, it really is. It's so hard to
hard, dude.
unplug. I've got 3 kids,
Especially
myself.
with a family.
I've got
like
a
you.
10, a 6, and a 3-year-old.
Aw,
And a wife and 4 dogs and koi fish and every other
4
fucking heartbeat in my damn house.
Oh, so do these guys, 3 kids.
2 kids.
2 kids.
Yeah.
So you have 2.
Me 1.
So
I've
both the
got
kids are
2.
Carrie's.
He's a bonus daddy.
There's
Bonus
bonus
dad.
dad. Hey, that's great. You can't discount bonus dads. I have
Oh.
bonus dad and had a bonus mom.
A woman
And I gotta-
came to me though, and she was like, I
time
feel like I have no boundaries. I'm working all the time. I don't know how to get to the next level or what that even looks like for me. Maybe I don't even want to be at this company anymore. She's just seeking clarity on whatever's next, but she knows she's called to something bigger, something more. And there's a sense of aliveness that they kind of feel like they're missing out on in their life. We started with that, and that was the thread
And this
that we started to
particular
pull.
person
That's cool.
was money. If she's the CEO, chances are she's probably got money.
It's not her company. She works for them.
Right.
Actually, when she first started with me, she was the co-CEO, and then she ended up taking the other woman's job.
You're
It's like the
below.
fox is in the hen house now.
Right.
Better watch out. These
like
chicks
Keri
are coming
said-
with big claws.
Yeah, a lot of
What
them
the hell
are
you
bred. A lot of
talking
my,
about?
I don't know. Ben's
I don't even know how
Ben's
he
in
got
a
onto
cave, but it's not the cave of courage. I don't know
It's
where
not.
Ben went.
You are not in the cave of courage right now, Ben.
The cave of courage.
Yeah.
I love this.
That is good.
You know, like Keri was kind of getting at in different terms, most of our clients come to us and they've reached what Gay Hendricks refers to, if you're familiar, the author of The Big Leap, which is your upper limit moment. They're experiencing an upper limit moment
Yeah.
that they're struggling to break through.
The ceiling.
Correct.
Yep,
Yeah, the
exactly.
ceiling.
Gotcha.
Which is just it's a self-imposed ceiling that is firmly in place based on a number of different factors.
Right. Okay.
Our emotional intelligence, our current level of emotional intelligence, conscious awareness growth, and interpersonal healing. That determines what our ceiling or our upper limit is. Anything beyond that, whether it's a greater degree of financial wealth, whether it's more opportunity, whether it's deeper connection, love, and intimacy, is going to feel like a threat to our nervous system. And so we have to expand or increase our upper limit. Another way of saying that is to increase our threshold for what we feel safe to receive in our physical body, which is why Keri and I both work with somatics, soma just meaning body. That has to happen in order for us to sustainably reach the next level and stay there.
Yeah,
right?
It's like not lottery winners, right?
Right. Getting to the mountaintop's not the hard
away.
part. Staying there's the hard part.
Breathing up on top of Everest would be the hard part, right?
That too.
Right. I mean, but no, essentially,
Sure.
it's like staying up there, you know? You know what? You just reminded me. I mean, as I've watched you speak and you communicate, you almost communicate the same way my brother communicates. But my brother lives in Australia and now has this Aussie accent. You guys have like very similar mannerisms. It's very... feel very close to me, even though he's so far away. That's awesome. I mean, and that's really, really good stuff. I think everybody could use all of these tools to not only better themselves, but manage all the things on their plate in the best way possible, because just like that woman doesn't want to not be there for her family if
she's
kids
got
and
2
family
kids,
is a priority, and she's missing that, but she's constantly on the phone and she's constantly working. And it's how you, I guess, is it setting people up, hiring help, prioritizing, making the time, scheduling, all those things. You get so busy, you have to do it.
It affected her ability to delegate or not. It affected her ability to be present because she was always kind of somewhere else in her phone other than where she was, like at her daughter's sports event. And so it's like, damn, how do I actually do this? Logically, I know what I want. For whatever reason, I'm the one that keeps filling my calendar. I'm the one that's taking a call at night on the weeknights. I'm the one that's like in my phone at my daughter's game. What the hell?
A passenger in her own body.
Right. You know what? My wife, because sometimes, like, we have my daughter plays soccer. She's 6, but my son's in this travel league baseball that has me going to tournaments every fucking weekend. And it's a damn nightmare. Like, I'm not doing it again. It's just... But I'll be at the game and my wife's like, take pictures, take videos. I'm like, I don't want to be sitting there living through my fucking phone.
Totally.
Because then I get excited and then I put the phone down anyway and it's the most awful video.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. It's just, to me, it's like I would rather absorb it with my eyes.
You'd rather be present.
I would rather, exactly. You know, granted, sometimes having a picture of something, but most of the pictures, there's like 10 million of them. And I mean, how many of them do I really go and reflect on?
Right.
How many of them are framed and actually on the walls in your house?
Do people do that anymore? Like very, very seldom.
We've been talking
Ben
about
does,
it.
or Jen does.
we
well,
do.
Jen does. Your wife.
That's
you
why
don't.
I said we do.
Yeah,
Right.
I take them.
Yeah.
Actually, but my wife and I are both bad at that because, like, we'll get kids' pictures and stuff and sports pictures, and it's how many of them end up in a frame? Not as much as they should. People are going to be like, does someone live in this house? There's no pictures of the
Properly
family.
staged.
Yeah, this is a staged home. Where's the real family here?
There's more liquor bottles than family pictures.
Do you guys even like each other?
Yeah. How come there's none of y'all together.
Yeah, exactly.
No, well,
There's some wedding photos up still, aren't there? You guys look so cute
Yes, we are. We are.
when you're just little puppies.
Yeah, puppies. Well, yeah, little fellas. So, Ben, do you have any other questions? I mean, do you have any?
No,
I feel like we've covered a ton. I mean, we can keep going, I'm sure, but
Well, I know you got a hard stop coming up. I just want to thank you guys for coming on, and also, taking the path in life to step up and say, hey, I'm here to help you get to the next level. I'm here to help you figure out your bullshit, or I'm here to help you get to your next. Like, that's such a big deal. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. And I honor your path, and I wish you guys all the best and greatest blessings. Hopefully we can help you sell a lot of books and get a bunch of new clients and whatever else. I just really appreciate you guys stepping up and choosing to live the life that you live and doing it so well.
And introducing us to the Cave of Courage.
That is something that will live in infamy.
Shedding light,
Cave of Courage.
The Cave of Courage.
Actually, you guys, have you been to Serenby?
We need to turn it into a place.
The Cave of Courage. Serenbe. No, I haven't.
So it's here in Atlanta. I mean,
I've
a little
heard of it.
south.
Yeah.
It's a wellness community, like on the edge of Atlanta.
Yes, okay, I have heard of it, but
and
I've
it
never been
is
there.
incredible.
No one invited me.
Well, I'm hosting a women's retreat there.
Can I come?
In August. Jake will be a
I
guest
love women.
speaker.
Really?
So that'll be cool. But
Do you need an assistant?
we'll be going to the Cave of Courage.
You are going in the Cave of Courage? What are you going to talk about, Jake? Guy
that?
stuff?
Last time he did
The man's
I'm
perspective?
not sure exactly what we're going to talk about yet. We haven't delved too deep in.
So do you pick a topic for him to expand on? Or
No,
you let
I
him
mean,
do his thing?
I might tell him in a debrief around what themes are coming up or what I'm seeing people maybe need to break through or shift if there's a collective theme. But he's so intuitive, as am I. I just trust him. And so he leads them through partnership exercises, and we also fully trust whatever needs to come up will as it's unfolding.
Any of the women be like, damn it, a man's here. I thought this was a women's retreat.
I think they
Nice.
appreciate, I should say, the male perspective.
Of course.
I think in many ways it allows them to make these teachings and these concepts a little bit more relevant for them as far as how they relate in their relationship to men, whether or not they are in a relationship with a man or not. But that's something we definitely co-create together and talk about prior to the retreat around like what's showing up in the space with these women. What are some common areas of struggle or growth opportunities that we can really support them with, which is what we do at all of our events.
Well, you're a great communicator, and I think that all the women at this retreat or gathering they're going to be like, I needed to hear that right now. It's very cool. Will you guys plug?
Then he has to leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Where's he going?
Get out.
I thought he was going to pull his pants off. I thought it was going to be like, all right, ladies.
This isn't the
now
package.
entertainment is here.
Not that kind of
This
retreat.
isn't the custom package that only I receive.
He's wearing breakaways.
Oh my God. If you were
That would be... I'm sorry.
Assless Chad.
Mike.
The image of just that. I don't care who it is, but like you're inspiring all those women and then the music comes on. It's just... Anyway,
Surprise, magic money.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
absolutely. Keri, would you plug
Yeah.
your socials, where can people contact you? Where can, women find you, men, women find you, all that?
Yeah, we've got the Made for More retreats coming up August 17 through 20 here at Serenbe. We have 10 women that are going to be going. We have 5 spots left, so that's half sold out, which is great. And you can find everything about that and other programs I offer at elevatewithkeri, KERI.com. Or you can connect with me on socials at I am Keri Ford on Insta.
And Jake, your turn.
So the best place to interact and connect with me is my Instagram. I am Jake Kauffman, JakeKauffman. My website, awakewithjake.com. Book is on Amazon.
Y'all have the
Let
link,
Love
so.
In. It is my full name, so Jacob Kauffman, Jacob, and then my last name. But yeah, I also have a men's platform for anybody who's interested in doing some deeper work.
Nice. The book is Let Love In, The Pain Stops Where the Truth Starts. And we will link up to all of your socials and websites on our episode description when this episode drops. So we will, plug and share all your info with anybody that, wants to contact you and get more info about you too. You guys are awesome. I appreciate your time.
Thank
I
you
hope
so
it
much,
was
guys.
fun.
For you, yeah.
Sorry, we're stupid sometimes.
I feel like we need to end with you being like, the Cave of Courage.
The Cave of Courage.
As we leave, we're going into the Cave of Courage. Hey, once again, thank you for listening to the ManFUzed Podcast. Feel free to join the show, 770-744-5227, or by hitting us up at ManFUzed.com. If you want information on Keri Ford or Jake Kauffman, we're going to post that in our episode description.